All right, welcome everyone back to the CollegeTracks Spotlight podcast. I am your host, Priscilla Diwa, and today we have a great guest, Charmaine Hipolito, joining us. And for those of you who don't know what the CollegeTracks Spotlight is, it is a new podcast by CollegeTracks that invites our alumni who have been in the college access and success programs, and we get a chance to talk with them, and they get to share what they've been doing after college and catch up with them. So today, as I mentioned, we have Charmaine. Charmaine recently graduated with a BS Transactional Life Science Technology at UMBC Shady Grove campus. She had an outstanding academic record and was a consistent Dean's Lister. Charmaine also received several merit scholarship and recognition for her scholastic work. In addition to her academics, she also had several internships in the biopharmaceutical industry, including UMD Biotech and AMP research program, as well as AstraZeneca. Charmaine has also had some medical experience from her time in Johns Hopkins Community Physicians Clinic. Right after graduation, she worked with American Gene Technology as an operations specialist in their startup COVID laboratory. And currently, she is the biotechnological and biopharmaceutical industry with Kite Pharma, as she works as a cell therapy specialist. Charmaine, how are you?
I'm good. How are you, Priscilla?
I'm good. Your resume is extensive. You have like a lot of cool experiences before this. So
Oh, thank you so much. Yeah, I just try to expand my experience and
yeah,
apply for jobs that I think are pretty interesting.
for sure. So when,
Mhm.
when I was reading it, have you always been interested in what you've studied, or was there a change before?
So originally I didn't really know biotechnology was in the industry in itself.
Yeah.
I was interested in going to med school. It was just a typical thing. My parents were like, "Oh, you know what? You'd be great as a doctor." So in my head, that's always been the main thing I need to strive for.
Yeah.
So when I was trying to decide my degree, I went for biology,
Mhm.
and I'm good at science, and I expected to be good at med school as well. So I thought that would be that's just the thing that I have to do.
For sure.
But then I tried working in a clinic. I worked as a medical assistant for about, I want to say, 6 to 7 months. I loved the work there, but I don't think I was able to handle the emotional toll that you have to have when you work in a medical clinic.
Yeah.
I worked with a lot of older patients.
Mhm.
I work under a rheumatologist, so it was pretty heavy when your patients always are reaching out to you, but you can't really help them. You want to help them, but you can't really. So I think that was one thing that I don't think I can handle. So I changed my mind, and that was really difficult for me at that time because I didn't know what else I can do with my degree, and I didn't really want to change majorly to where I have to pay more and then have to tell my parents that I changed my mind. I have to, I need your help again.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was a difficult decision. But then I found the program for biotechnology, so I was able to dig into it more, and then I was like, you know what? This sounds pretty interesting. It's still science based. I'm still helping patients, but I'm not really directly
Yeah.
involved, but it's still what I want.
Yeah.
So,
Oh, that's really awesome. So working as a cell therapy specialist, like you mentioned before, like in a way you do get to help patients, right? Specifically with cancer research. So how, like what specifically do you do at your current job right now? Like how is it impacting people?
so currently in my job, we work in the manufacturing suites.
Mhm.
So we actually are the ones who take the cells that we. So the first instance of our job is we take the patient's blood, and then when we get the blood, engineer the we engineer that in a way that it could have the antigens that could fight off the cancer cells. We propagate that and we grow it into where it's good enough for the patients to have,
Mhm.
and we deliver it to them. And yeah, that's essentially it in a short. Uh,
Yeah.
Mhm.
I could see how doing something like that like is really fulfilling in your work too. And it also like combines these two things that you love, right? Like mentioned before, you're really good at science, but then with your past experience, you don't really have that much of an emotional toll as you had before. But your work that you're doing is like literally saving people's lives.
Yeah, especially since our the type of medicine that we do, or the type of cell therapy that we do, is essentially the last line of most cancer patients. So they've done chemotherapy,
Right.
stem cell.
Mm.
So this is like their last hope. So to be able to be a part of like one more chance at life, it's a very humbling experience and it's really fulfilling.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So when you mention it's usually like safe for patients who have like kind of like their last hope, do you know like if maybe later on in the future, like it's going to become on track to being like one of the main remedies instead of like being reserved for like the last thing?
That's our hope.
Yeah.
Uh, we'll see in the next few years. Right now, I believe our therapy was just approved to be the second line of defense for a certain type of cancer. So I'm hoping that in the near future, it could be the first one. So you don't have to go through that major toll on your body with chemotherapy and everything, you know.
Yeah. Well, that's really something great to look forward to. For
That's
sure.
why I'm really glad to be a part of like my company and what I worked in.
Yeah. So when you look at yourself now, right, like from the beginning, like when you first like were in high school and college to where you are now, how would you say was your experience like first in high school and then transitioning to college too?
So I didn't grow up in the US. I grew up in the Philippines.
Mhm.
And then I came here when I was 15 years old. I didn't really think much about my future. I'm a person who just goes with the flow.
Yeah.
Don't really plan much about my future. But when I was in high school on our senior year, you know how they're like a lot of your guidance counselors and your teachers ask you to be ready for your college career or your college pathway. But as somebody who just immigrated from the Philippines to the US, I really didn't have any knowledge about the process of it, neither my parents. So I didn't really have anybody to tell me what to do and like what to like what's what important information I need to have in order to actually be successful in finding a good college, successfully putting your application in, and like just the college process in general. So that's when I believe I met Miss Jenny in CollegeTracks. I met her with my friends. We just went to like my memory is pretty hazy, but I remember just going to like a room and them being like helping me decide which college is best for me and like which majors or degrees would be good for me in that situation, and like just figuring out um, what I can do with my situation back then.
Okay. Okay. And that like when you first met, were introduced to college tracks in high school, they kind of served as a guide for you, right? Um,
Yes.
and so like when you transitioned into college, did you still have like that same support? Like was it mainly in high school?
Oh, it definitely still continued until I was in college, until my fourth year, I believe, or fifth year. Um, yeah, they continued to check up on me every every month, I believe. I was not great with like um meeting with them, but like yeah, they usually just like email me, hey Charmaine, do you want to meet up to talk about your college experience? And I'm really thankful for that because you can always get swept by what you're doing and not really check on what's happening in your life. But having somebody actually just tell you, hey, you need a time to think about and tell me what's happening in your life. Um, that's really great for me. That really helped me be aware of what's happening and be able to plan out what I can do to make my college life a little better for
Mhm.
me.
Yeah.
Just decide it for myself.
I love hearing that. I love hearing that for different reasons, only because like when I usually think of like a support system, like through wherever I'm doing, I like usually it's only like, oh, like family or friends, but like your support system can be like even places like your coach at CollegeTracks or even your professors, you know. So that's why like I'm really grateful for like different organizations or just like people that come into your life that serve a purpose in whatever way, because you know like with this the term like self-made is not really self-made, even though like you know like as an individual like you're responsible for your whole life, but there have been people who come in and out of your life but they serve a greater purpose for you to get where you need to be, you know.
I
So
definitely agree with that.
yeah,
Yeah, because like I don't think I would be able to be here without the support of my family, my friends, especially like the other organizations that help me, specifically like college tracks, you know. Like I know you have friends that could support you in your like academic problems, but at the same time you're also dealing with their problems. So we're all like essentially children that have been
seriously,
dealing or
yeah,
just here, so you don't really know what's going on. So it's great to hear from people that have done this before, and they could actually advise you on what's good and what's bad, and like what you can do to make it better. You
yeah,
know?
I definitely agree. So when you mentioned that like you were born in the Philippines, was it Manila or was it another city, by the way?
Oh, I was born in Manila.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was there for about 10 years, and then we moved to like kind of a suburb, I want to
Okay.
say, like Cavite. And then after that, I moved to like Maryland. So I've been moving a lot.
That's cool to have like different experiences too. And I
Yeah.
think like Filipino food is like one of the best. So good. Halo halo would be good
I like
actually.
that.
So yeah, so I was gonna mention, so like before, because you've had like different international experiences, right? Like obviously like coming here, like it's like different educational system, from like just different parts of the world. But for you, like experiencing college and like having graduated, like what are some of the experiences that you've had? And then also like, are there some things about the educational system that like you'd want to change?
So, one thing that I found when I came here, in high school, I found it really easy for me to like go through this stuff because a lot of the information that the teachers would give you are essentially like spoon fed, I want to say.
Yeah.
Back in the Philippines, it's not really that way. You really had to work hard for it. So I think that's one thing that I was really surprised when I came here. Um, the quality of education is still good, but I feel like a lot of our education system, especially in high school, and I think elementary as well, judging from like my conversations with my friends,
Mm,
it would be great to give them independence on like how they can learn,
okay.
how they can find answers to those questions.
Okay.
It's great to help, but at the same time, when you're always there for somebody, they kind of depend on you, and you don't really teach them a lot. So I think that's one thing that uh, I find really different when I came here. Also, when I came to higher education, like my college university years, I know there's some in the Philippines. There's universities there that are free
Mm,
for for some people, but essentially you still had to pay for
okay.
some of it. But in here, I know it's very difficult to just be in a university, and you just really have to take out a loan in order for you to have a bachelor's degree. And I think one thing, if I was really able to, I would push for a free college education for everybody. I think it's really good. And you know, me, I was privileged enough and lucky enough to land scholarships throughout my college years. So I really didn't have to worry about loans or debts or anything like that. So I think that's partially why I'm set up for success right after graduation,
Yeah.
because I didn't have to worry anything about money. And I know it's kind of sad that we have to worry about that as like young professionals, but it's just the reality of the world. And just I feel like having no worries about having to pay instantly right after graduation would give a lot more peace of mind for newly graduates, especially since, you know, you've been in school for like 20 plus years, and graduating and being left out all alone, not really left alone, but like, the feeling of like just being by yourself, figuring out everything on top of like having to pay your loans. It's a difficult thing to do. So I think having that taken off by having free education would really help a lot of people.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a really great point. And you mentioned something actually like an aspect of free education that I haven't really heard. Mostly like I hear it's like free education, obviously, but mostly in the way it's like before going to college, right? Because some people can't even start college or even finish college because of financial reasons. But when you mentioned the aspect of even after graduation, right? Like you still have it in the back of your mind, like, okay, I have to get a job like soon because I have to repay it. And that really does take an effect like on your mental health. Because I mean, for one, it's like after graduation, some people just want to relax a little bit. You know what I mean? Because
Yeah, definitely.
and then but like just having like a state of worry, especially also with like other finances as well, you know, like rent, your living expenses, and then plus also paying back school loans. It really does take in sometimes like a toll on your mental health. So that's like an aspect of free education that I haven't really heard of before, but it's good that you've said that because it really does affect you before, during, and after college,
Yeah.
all the financial expenses for that.
Yeah, especially if you're like a breadwinner for your family,
Yeah.
you have to worry about that on top of like providing for your family. And there's a lot of people that have that reality, and I feel like it would just help tremendously if we're able to provide everybody with free education.
Yeah, yeah. I think that's like becoming like even more of like a bigger like I'm hearing like a little bit more about that, especially not just like within communication with you know, people like our age, but then also like more like on a society level too. You know, like we've heard like a lot about like canceling loans, and also like a lot of community colleges have made, not a lot, but like there have been some community colleges that are progressive in terms of offering free education. So I think
Yeah.
like we're trying to take like the right step in getting there, but overall there have been like more push for it. So I hopefully that's going to be settled. Everyone can experience the opportunity to go to college for free.
Yes, definitely. Really hope that too.
Yeah, yeah. So I kind of want to go back to your career right now specifically, right? We've heard like a little bit like what you do, but in terms of actually like working in it, what are some of the skill set that one needs to have in the job that you do right now?
So essentially, I'm a therapy specialist right now, but I feel like the skills that I'm about to tell you is relevant for any kind of jobs,
Yeah,
actually. I feel like being creative and being adaptable to any position that you have is really the key of being successful. So I know being creative, just usually the first thing that comes into your mind when somebody says they're creative is just like, being able to draw, being able
yeah.
to paint, but there's also another aspect where it really teaches you how to think outside the box.
Mhm.
So whenever there's challenges or like problems that comes into your work, you're able to actually think, oh, we can actually do this instead of that.
Yeah.
There's like solutions to every problem, and not a lot of them are obvious. So you really just have to be creative with your solutions.
Mhm.
And also adaptability. I say that because even if I don't work in retail, I also work with a lot of people. You still have to work with your coworkers. It's still a collaborative effort, especially in our work. I just don't do all like the cell techniques and cell therapy myself. That would be crazy. But if you're able to adapt to a lot of personalities and just being aware of what you say, and being aware of like the social environment that you are in, it really makes a lot of difference to when you work with other people. Um, you don't have to like them; you just have to really respect them and like know where they're coming from. So you're able to come up with a solution to a problem that you're facing,
Yeah.
and able to work collaboratively, because at the end of the day, this is not about you, this is not about them, it's about the patient.
Yeah.
It's about the end point of your the end point of your work. So you just really have to adapt. So that's really the most important part of it.
Yeah. And do you think like the two main things that you mentioned, like that was like do you think that you already like were creative before working in the space that you are in? And then like once you got there, it's like, okay, you just expanded on that? Or like did you learn that on the job? Like being creative specifically?
I think creativity just I grew up to be like I really like art and like painting and stuff like that. So I think that just came to me ever since I was young. And I didn't really know that you can actually translate that to a workplace environment. I just knew it was just like, being creative just means that you're able to design, you're able to paint, but there's also you know, another point of it where you can actually use it to problem solving.
Yeah.
So I feel like I realized that when I started working.
Mhm.
So, and with adaptability, I think I'm usually not very friendly with people, but I try to be um, social, and I try to be friendly whenever I meet new people, and I try to gauge what they're comfortable with and what the boundaries set. And I didn't really know that as well until I went to work. So it's like a slow progression, and like realizing, hey, these are skills that you actually need.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah,
for
yeah.
sure. I'm actually really glad to hear specifically about the creativity part
Mhm.
because like I think like I'm kind of the same boat too. Like a lot of people don't really know that like creativity, like when you think about it, it's like okay, art or like drawing or
Right.
music, right? But if you thought about like for you specifically in the medical field, life science, it's like you really think like you have to be creative in that aspect, right? But
Yeah.
the way that you described it, it's like it really does make sense. So it's really cool to see creativity like in a whole new light. That's really great. So then for one person, like let's say for example, you have like a little siblings or brother and they want to
Mhm.
do the exact same thing that you do. Like what's like a piece of advice you give to someone who wants to go after the same career that you are in right now?
I think first things first is just do not be afraid to like put your name out there. The worst thing that could happen is just they just don't take you in. But like
Mm-hmm.
after that, you just go on to the next one. Um, Essentially just apply for jobs or internships that you see, even if you don't meet the requirements for the position. Most of the times, once you get the interview, they mostly go for like how you go about solving problems and how you approach things. And another important thing is to just network with people, just talk to them about anything special actually. So usually LinkedIn is really good for that. You can just message people. If you're interested in what they're doing, just shoot them a message, be like, hey, I'm interested in knowing about this or that, could you provide me with more details? I'd be glad to hear from you. And really the worst thing that could happen is just they don't respond to you, in which case you go to the other person and somebody out there would reply to you, or something. Just I feel like reaching out to people just tells them that you're really willing to know more about this.
Mm-hmm.
And it just shows more personality, I believe, than just sending a resume.
Yeah,
Everybody sends resume,
yeah,
and I feel like just reaching out to people, especially job hunting or like internship hunting, would just you would just stick out more, because you're essentially just putting your interest out, and you're actually talking to a person.
yeah, yeah. So that's like kind of like adding like an extra layer, like being more personable. But then like when you were talking, I was thinking about like the theme of just like showing up. This
Mhm.
book, I forget what it's called, but it talked about that aspect specifically. Like in terms of like when you're just like living life, you have to show up, right? Like don't always be like
Right.
behind the curtain, like so show your presence out there, whether that's like by networking, or just like reaching out to different people and just like applying to different places you might not think you'll get, but you get it anyways.
Right.
Showing up and being present, and it really does make a huge difference.
Yeah, especially if you're like on a degree and then what you really wanted, you figured out that it's not really on the realm of your degree. I think just reaching out to people, that's a really good advice because, you know, you don't have to have the experience, but if you're willing to actually do the work, someone out there will um look at your drive and be like, you know what, I'll give you a chance.
Yeah, yeah. So in terms of like reaching out to people, like has it ever been like for you like right now or like in the past as well, like people who like or someone that you do look up to and be like, wow, like this is like the person that I would want to emulate my life like.
Like, yeah, so one thing about me is that I don't really believe in like role models in my life. I
No.
think that really gives a lot of leeway to people putting another person in a pedestal and then justifying their mistakes and stuff like that. So I try not to, and but I do commend people with like their skills and their abilities. I really admire people who have the drive to like do something in their life ever since they were like a child,
Yeah.
and then still having that motivation to do what they wanted because they just really want to see a change in the world. You know, stuff like this, something simple, like especially I also admire people who have the ability to talk to anybody essentially and be very friendly, and then like they just talk to somebody with ease.
Yeah.
You know, it's like it's very crazy to think that, I don't know, I just like those kind of skills I wish I have.
You can
But
develop them. You can definitely develop them.
well, yeah. Yeah, but like those are the kind of skills that I really admire with people, and like people that who just you just feel that they're there even though you don't ask for their help. They're just there. You can feel that they're supporting you even though you don't really ask them
Yeah.
explicitly. Yeah, so mostly I like well, I commend people for like their skills
Okay.
and abilities. Yeah.
Okay. I like that. See, I think like this, when you mentioned before, like adaptability, right? Like just like learning like people who are different than you. I think that this is like probably one of the most, not one of the most, but like one of those conversation where like I just see things differently. And with
Mhm.
your answers right now too, it's like when you mentioned, when you answered like you don't have like role models, but you admire skills, right?
Mhm.
And I like that too. Like that's something like different I've heard. So it's like I'm learning a lot from this interview already. So that's a good outlook to have too. So right now, I always like to like a little bit. Well, actually, no, I say that for the last questions. But before, I just want to point out like I see like a lot of plants behind you.
Yes.
So is it like something that you're really into?
Yeah, so I recently moved to my new place. I didn't really have that much plants when I was younger, but when I moved to my new place, I was like, I like the look of plants, so I bought one, not thinking anything of it, and then um, now I have, I don't know, 30 plus plants indoors. So yeah, it's very fulfilling to see them grow and just be healthy.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's my new hobby now. So
Is it a lot?
yeah,
Is it a lot to maintain them, or no? Not really.
actually, I choose plants that are not really high maintenance because of my schedule. I can't really take care of them that much.
Mhm.
But you'd be surprised at how much plants can take.
Hmm.
You know, like some of them I just water it twice a month.
Really?
Yeah. It's
Wow.
very easy actually. It looks very hard in first glance. Like I was also afraid of having like just dead plants all over my house when I first started. But yeah, some of them are just like, you know what, if you give me water once a week, give me sunlight, I'm not really give you any problems after that. Yeah, it's very nice. It's like you don't really need a lot of decorations when you have plants
Yeah.
because you essentially just
Really
have a lot
decoration.
of greens, which it looks very pleasant in
Yeah.
wall everything.
Yeah, even just like visual, also like another aspect too. I feel like the air quality in your house is really nice too, like because of all
Oh, thank you.
the,
I hope so.
yeah, it's a really
Yeah,
good.
and I think there's actually like a research study. I'm not sure if this is true, but like if you have any green things or like plants around you when you're working, it calms you down.
Oh, okay. Okay. I have to look into indoor plants as well. Now knowing that some of them are like a lot of work. So lastly, I would like to ask this question last. What are some of the things that you're most grateful for right now?
Right now, I'm very grateful for the people that's in my life. They're very good people, and I'm really grateful that I have them. My parents, especially, I think they've been very supportive of me ever since I started my university or college years. They've never actually forced me to be something I didn't really want. They've always been there to just support me, just in general. They always have my back. Um, it's also especially my friends. They're always there to like um, I have someone to vent to, I have somebody to celebrate with, and I just have somebody to like just relax. So I'm very grateful with the people that I have in my life, and I think I'm really blessed that they just have been good people and they just want nothing but like the best for me.
Yeah, yeah. That really is one of like the most like I don't know, because like not everyone has that. You know,
Yeah,
it's just like having like a supportive family and friends is not something that's common.
yeah,
Um,
I feel very lucky.
exactly. So like by having that, it's like you really like have a lot of blessings. So I'm really glad to hear that. And that comes to the conclusion of our recording. So thank you so much, Charmaine, for your
Thank
time.
you.
It
I
was
really
a
appreciate
pleasure.
it.
It was such a pleasure, like hearing like everything that you're doing right now and all the impacts that you're having in people's lives and health. And then also just like hearing your journey from like moving here from the Philippines and being where you are right now. So it was so much great talking to you. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you for reaching out. I really appreciate it. It's nice to meet you.
Absolutely.